that's not the video. But don't you just wish that we could just make that the video? I mean, wouldn't it just be easier for us if we could just say, boom, vaccines don't cause autism. That's the video, you should get a vaccine. But unfortunately, we live in a world where the simplest answers aren't exactly the ones that we want. Quick disclaimer, this is just one man's educated opinion about vaccines. I'm not an expert, I'm not a medical expert or anything like that, I don't purport to be one. However, I do listen to the people that are experts, and this is just simply me reporting out what those experts have studied throughout the decades. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So let's go back in time to 1798 when vaccines were first created. Edward Jenner, a pioneer in vaccine science, noticed that women that got cowpox did not get smallpox at a later age. He therefore used that information and he was able to create the first smallpox vaccine by giving dead versions of smallpox to other people, therefore inoculating them from getting smallpox in the future. Now the smallpox vaccine that Edward Jenner created in 1798, that was like back in the day in the 18th century, and science has only gotten better since then. We can see though what a world without vaccines look like. It's a world with higher child mortality rates, where children would die before they would even reach the age of 5. Not only would old people die younger, but young people would die younger as well. It's a world where smallpox killed you 1/3 of the time if you got it. It's a world with painful, devastating, crippling ways to die. Here's a great example of what vaccines have done. They have cured absolutely, completely smallpox. Like I said, smallpox used to be a disease wherein your death practically 1/3 of the time guaranteed. It's gone, it's over. You don't see smallpox anymore in the world because we got rid of it through vaccines. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should take vaccines. Some people can't take vaccines. Like if you're too young, if you're like 6 months old, don't take vaccines because you're just too young, you're not there yet. Other people who can't take vaccines are people with immunodeficiency problems. I mean, vaccines are not for everyone, but if you don't have a valid medical reason, if you're not taking vaccines because you fear that vaccines cause autism or something else, I don't believe that that is a valid reason. And even for diseases we've nearly wiped out, vaccines are still necessary. Quick example, and I'm sure you've heard about this news, in Disney recently we've had an outbreak of measles. Measles, a disease that we wiped out, quote unquote, wiped out in the early 2000s, and now it's back. There have been more than 100 cases of measles reported already in the United States in 2015 alone. For a disease that's supposed to be wiped out, it's still around and it's still raging. So as long as there's one person that can communicate the disease, vaccines are still important and still necessary. To explain this further, let's talk about herd immunity. Imagine, if you will, 3 separate scenarios. The first scenario is where you have no one vaccinated, and all it takes is one person for the disease to spread throughout the population. That's bad, that's terrible, we don't want that to happen. And for the second scenario, imagine a world where it's much like we have right now, where you have some people that are vaccinated, some people that are not, and guess what happens? The disease will rip through that population and spread like wildfire, much like in the first scenario. Now imagine, if you will, the third scenario. Here, most of the population is vaccinated. The only people that aren't vaccinated are the people that I mentioned before, the people that can't get vaccinations because of immunodeficiency problems. But what do all these vaccinated people do? They form a sort of wall that protect the people that can't get vaccinations. I mean, if there's one sick person in the population and you have this wall of vaccinated people, then the people that can't get vaccinated, they're much less likely to catch the disease. And eventually, over the generations, over the years, the disease will be completely wiped out. Now you might be sitting there thinking, hey Alex, that's all great and good, but what about autism? Well, here's the facts. Your child, or you, or anyone else, if you take a vaccine, you cannot get autism. There is no correlation between autism and vaccines. Now you might be saying, hold on, wait a second, what about that study that came out in X year and it was like vaccines equals autism? It was pretty clear. Science, you know, it's right there. Fun fact about that study, it was completely refuted, and the study itself was retracted. And since then, we've done study after study after study after study that said that vaccines do not cause autism. Your child cannot get autism because of vaccines, but they can die a miserable, painful death if they don't get vaccines. Personally, I don't think the jury's out on science. I think that science has been a great boon for society. The scientific method is great. It works. It allows us to theorize how the world works. And the pharmaceutical companies, they can come in there and say, science say this, but ultimately anyone can reproduce the scientific method in their own home. You can go out there right now and use the scientific method to test your own theory. I mean, it's all pretty straightforward. Like 2 + 2 = 4. As much as, people like the Koch brothers might want it to equal 5, it's always going to equal 4. Last, let me ask a question of my own. Should vaccines be compulsory? I want to know your thoughts. Put them down in the comments below and let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next week. Disclaimer, I'm not an expert, nor do I purport to be one, but I do listen to the other experts, and I feel like I am an authority. I'm not an authority, what am I saying? I think you should give vaccines a shot.